This is really my last trick for keeping a clean production, and a clean workflow as well, I think is important. So I've kind of touched on this a few times throughout various videos, but I don't think I've really honed in on this. But the more astute of you may have noticed that this track is almost there, and like I've said in a couple of the other videos, I think I'm about 80% there in terms of sound design, production, arrangement, everything's there. It's just a few little tweaks. I'm saying 80%, it's probably 90-95%. But the really important thing is look how many channels there are, or how few channels there are. You know, there's probably 15 channels in this whole project, and of those 15 channels, 1, 2, 3, 4 of those are vocals and vocal effects. Plus the only 2 return channels are vocals as well. And I think that's a hugely important thing to remember when it comes to music production, is that sometimes less is more. In fact, I'm going to say most of the time less is more. And the number of times I see somebody with a production that has 10, 15, 20 of the same synth playing almost the same notes, or pretty much the same sound and definitely the same notes, and when you're listening to a finished production, you're not hearing 20 different synths going on. And I think I touched on one of the very early videos of this series, where sometimes it's because somebody maybe just wanted a bit of reverb and they didn't know they wanted reverb, so they're flicking through presets trying to add in and stack on additional sounds, and one of those sounds happens to have some long extended reverb, and then they end up going, oh, finally I've got the sound I wanted, and 10 layers into it, and they think that the 10 layers is the sound they were looking for all along. Whereas actually, if you keep it really simple and ask yourself at every stage, what am I actually looking for? What do I need this sound to achieve? And more often than not, it will have been something as simple as that vibrato we talked about in the first video, or some reverb, or it could be some EQ that there's maybe too much or not enough in one frequency or another, or perhaps your synth is in the wrong octave and you need to raise it an octave or lower an octave. It's all about keeping those things simple. Now obviously with the vocal, there's 8 or 9 channels of vocal going on that I've pre-exported as a stem here. If we were to take the vocal out of this whole track, we're then left with 10 channels of not very much happening, but it's still kind of a cool track. In fact, let's try that out. Let's try an instrumental. How's that going to sound? Not that it was meant to be an instrumental, but let's have a listen. I mean, that works as a verse, and then the chorus. Yeah, and I think that kind of works. So again, it's about the simplicity of a track, and that's something that really needs to be drummed into all of us at times, that we don't always need 90 channels of sound happening at the same time. If you want a good kick drum sound and you find yourself layering in, you found almost the right kick and you need some more sub body in there, so you find another kick and filter elements of that out and layer it underneath. You might find that actually you were better off, rather than having those 5 or 6 elements of kicks stacked up on top of each other, you might find that just going through a sample bank and listening to the right kick drum in the right place and go, that one works. And on that note, I'm just going to give you one last bonus tip as well, as we're talking about less is more. You'll also notice that things like, for example, where this intro goes into verse 1, and there's just this little, a beat of silence, and again, keeping to that less is more theme, that has a much bigger impact like this.
Give me something.
So that's another less is more thing, where if you've got a breakdown and you've got some risers and there's a big snare roll or something like that, and you've got what you consider the drop in your arrangement where everything comes flying in, if you think that it doesn't quite kick in hard enough, and it doesn't matter how hard you smash everything together, it just doesn't quite have that impact. Sometimes the reason is because you just need that little break of silence. So it is something I highly recommend to everyone, that go the opposite direction sometimes. If you want huge snare rolls, by all means have them, and then just cut it with a bar of silence and then bring everything back in, and that tends to have a much bigger impact then, because it lets your ears reset and adjust to that silence just for a split second like this.
Give me something. Give me something to believe in.
And that, my friends, is it. So hopefully throughout these videos I've given you some decent advice on how to keep your production clean, and you're essentially heading towards a mixdown throughout the production, and always sort of keep that mixdown in mind, because the sooner you can clean up some of your instruments and some of your sounds, the easier your mix is going to be when you do finally export those stems and re-import them into a new project, hopefully, and then start sweating over those instead. Hope you've enjoyed the series. I'll see you again soon. Cheers.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content, and if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.